Hello, boys and girls. It's Mr. McMahon, and today I would like to read Chapter 5 of Winnie the Pooh, in which Piglet meets a heffalump. One day when Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh and Piglet were all talking together, Christopher Robin finished the mouthful he was eating and said carelessly, "I saw a heffalump today, Piglet." "What was it doing?" asked Piglet. "Just jumping along," said Christopher Robin. "I don't think it saw me." "I saw one once," said Piglet. "At least I think I did," he said. "Only perhaps it wasn't." "So did I," said Pooh, wondering what a heffalump was like. "You don't often see them," said Christopher Robin carelessly. "Not now," said Piglet. "Not at this time of year," said Pooh. Then they all talked about something else, until it was time for Pooh and Piglet to go home together. At first, as they jumped along the path which edged the 100-acre wood, they didn't say much to each other. But when they came to the stream and had helped each other across the stepping stones and were able to walk side by side again over the heather, they began to talk in a friendly way about this and that. And Piglet said, "If you see what I mean, Pooh," and Pooh said, "It's just what I think myself, Piglet." "Pooh, we must remember," and Pooh said, "Quite true, Piglet," although I had forgotten it for one moment. And then, just as they came to the 6 pine trees, Pooh looked round to see that nobody else was listening and said in a very solemn voice, "Piglet, I've decided something." "What have you decided, Pooh?" "I've decided to catch a heffalump." Pooh nodded his head several times as he said this and waited for Piglet to say how, or "Pooh, you couldn't," or something helpful of that sort, but Piglet said nothing. The fact was, Piglet was wishing that he had thought about it first. "I shall do it," said Pooh, after waiting a little longer, "by means of a trap, and it must be a cunning trap, so you will have to help me, Piglet." "Pooh," said Piglet, feeling quite happy again now, "I will." And then he said, "How shall we do it?" And Pooh said, "That's just it. How?" And then they sat down together to think about it. Pooh's first idea was that they should dig a very deep pit, and then the heffalump would come along and fall into the pit. And "Why?" said Piglet. "Why what?" said Pooh. "Why would he fall in?" Pooh rubbed his nose with his paw and said that the heffalump might be walking along, humming a little song and looking at the sky, wondering if it would rain, and so he wouldn't see the very deep pit until he was halfway down, when it would be too late. Piglet said that was a very good trap, but supposing it was raining already? Pooh rubbed his nose again and said that he hadn't thought of that. And then he brightened up and said that if it were raining already, the heffalump would be looking at the sky, wondering if it would clear up, and so he wouldn't see the very deep pit until he was halfway down, when it would be too late. Piglet said that now that this point had been explained, he thought that it was a cunning trap. Pooh was very proud when he heard this, and he felt that the heffalump was as good as caught already. But there was just one thing which had to be thought about, and it was this: where should they dig the very deep pit? Piglet said that the best place would be somewhere where a heffalump was, just before he fell into it, only about a foot further on. "But then he would see us digging," said Pooh. "Not if he was looking at the sky." "He would suspect," said Pooh, "if he happened to look down." He thought for a long time, and then added sadly, It isn't as easy as I thought. I suppose that's why heffalumps hardly ever get caught. That must be it, said Piglet. They sighed and got up, and when they had taken a few gorse prickles out of themselves, they sat down again. And all the time Pooh was saying to himself, if only I could think of something. For he felt sure that a very clever brain could catch a heffalump if only he knew the right way to go about it. Suppose, he said to Piglet, you wanted to catch it, me. How would you do it? Well, said Piglet, I should do it like this. I should make a trap. I should put a jar of honey in the trap. And you would smell it, and you would go after it, and I would go in after it, said Pooh excitedly, only very carefully so as not to hurt myself. And I would get to the jar of honey, and I should lick round the edges first of all, pretending that there wasn't any more, And then I should walk away and think about it a little. And then I should come back and start licking in the middle of the jar. And then, yes, well, never mind about that. There you would be, and there I should catch you. Now, the first thing to think of is, what do heffalumps like? I should think acorns, shouldn't you? We'll get a lot of... I say, wake up, Pooh. Pooh, who had gone into a happy dream, woke up with a start and said that honey was a much more trappy thing than acorns. Piglet didn't think so, and they were just going to argue about it when Piglet remembered that if they put acorns in the trap, he would have to find the acorns. But if they put honey, then Pooh would have to give up some of his own honey. So he said, all right, honey then, just as Pooh remembered it too and was going to say, all right, acorns. Honey, said Piglet to himself in a thoughtful way, as if it were now settled. I'll dig the pit while you go and get the honey. Very well, said Pooh, and he stumped off. As soon as he got home, he went to the larder, and he stood on a chair and took down a very large jar of honey from the top shelf. It had honey written on it, but just to make sure, he took off the paper cover and looked at it, and it looked just like honey. But you never can tell, said Pooh. I remember my uncle saying once that he had seen cheese just this color. So he put his tongue in and took a large lick. Yes, he said, it is. No doubt about it. And honey, I should say, right down to the bottom of the jar. Unless, of course, he said, somebody put cheese in the bottom just for a joke. Perhaps I'd better go a little further, just in case. In case heffalumps don't like cheese. Same as me. Ah, he gave a deep sigh. I was right. It is honey. Right the way down. Having made certain of this, he took the jar back to Piglet, and Piglet looked up from the bottom of his very deep pit and said, got it? And Pooh said, yes, but it isn't quite a full jar. And he threw it down to Piglet, and Piglet said, no, it isn't. Is that all you've got left? And Pooh said, yes, because it was. So Piglet put the jar at the bottom of the pit and climbed out, and then went off homeward together. Well, good night, Pooh, said Piglet when they had gone to Pooh's house. And we meet at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning by the pine tree to see how many heffalumps we've got in our trap. 6 o'clock, Piglet. And have you got my string? No. Why do you want string? To lead them home with. Oh, I think heffalumps come if you whistle. Some do and some don't. You never can tell with heffalumps. Well, good night. Good night. And Piglet trotted to his house, trespassers W, while Pooh made his preparations for bed. And I'm going to stop right there because this chapter is quite long, and we'll continue the rest of the chapter next time. Thank you very much.